Okay, in this week's flip through, going to Pathfinder's Advanced Player's Guide. So this expands on the core rulebook of the Player's Handbook. So in the table of contents, you can see the breakdown of this, and so it pretty much follows the same concept as the Player's Handbook. So you get into races, classes, feats, equipment, spells, prestige classes, magic items, and new rules. So going through this as like a typical flip through, you have your usual introduction where it kind of like gives the rundown of like what this whole book is all about. It breaks down each chapter on like okay what's new with this this each chapter, and like what to expect on each of the chapters in this book and everything. So like you can see races, classes, feats. He gives a description of all the chapters, and of course, just like the other books, it numbers them. You can see here number 1, races, and he has the artwork and a little kind of like a blurb from like a story type of deal to kind of like give a quick overview of the actual classes. So what this one gets into is like racial attitudes. So like, for instance, when it comes towards classes and stuff, like elves tend to be like more geared towards wizards, and dwarves tend to be geared more towards fighters. So like kind of like that's the concept of the attitudes, and like also kind of like traits. It gets into like a discussion of like the traits for those classes, and like you can see here it gets into like the favorite classes, like the elf and the dwarf example I used, the wizard and fighter respectively. So you can use that as like favorite classes and everything. So it also gets in, I guess you can see right here it starts off with the dwarves, and it's a dwarf adventurers. So like it goes into all the classes, the ones that are introduced here, like the alchemist, the cavalier, and plus like the ones from the core rulebook. So it also goes into like alternate racial traits. So like what you can do is you don't necessarily have to do like the typical traits that you find in the actual player's handbook for this and everything. So it gives like options that you can do for like a favorite class. So like the fighter example that I use, you can see here this like an option that you can use for fighters. It gives an option for like oracles and paladins, and like pretty much like the actual classes that you find that each race uses. So like and then it pretty much goes the kind of like a similar idea for each of these races as well. So it breaks down uh, by race in this chapter. So like you can see like the elves, you can see gnomes, same output like with the different options and attributes and adventures, and like then it gets into the half elves. Same thing with like a half elf adventurers with the different classes, alternate racial traits, class options. So with each race, like you have an idea for all these different like new options that you have, and so like you have like the half orcs. So you basically got all your traditional races that you find in the actual core player's handbook. So this is like, as you can see, build it upon the stuff you find in the core rulebook. And so this being the advanced one, it builds on it. So like that's why it's called the advanced, because it has in a sense advanced rules and stuff. So you can see here the humans, and then you get into chapter 2, the classes, and just like I said, it pretty much gives you artwork and a little blurb that you can see on like a kind of like a scenario that like the characters can get into. So then the classes like it talks about like the base classes that are in this one. So you can see the new ones like the alchemist, cavalier, inquisitor, oracle, summoner, and witch. And so like each one you can kind of like comes to mind something different and everything. So like just like the other classes, you have like a start wealth. They average it out, so like you can see like the average start. So like the average roll of these dice and everything. So each class, like you can see here, the alchemist, it actually breaks it down just like the other classes. So like it talks like the general overview, the role, the skills, and so this is like the D20 system that like the third edition D&D made famous, and so and that's known as the D20. So you see the class features for each class, and of course it gives like a kind of like a nice little artwork to kind of showcase what the stereotypical class for this would be like. And so it goes into further of like the abilities and everything, and being the D20 system, it actually breaks down like levels, base attacks, your saving throws, your special abilities, and like for this one would be like extracts per day dealing with alchemy. And so like spell casting classes, you have like spells per day and everything. So and you can see how in depth these classes go with each single one. So like here you can see now getting into the actual cavalier. So like kind of like your typical knight in shining armor comes to mind with this one. The alchemist, like the potion maker, is kind of like your tinker, someone that spends too much time in the lab. That's what comes to mind with that and everything. So, and that's pretty much how it goes through it. Like and all these. So inquisitor, you can kind of like get into mind like the campaigning like priest, like maybe someone like historically you could say like the Crusades, someone like that's going off into the Crusades to wrestle the Holy Land for their religions. That something like that comes to mind. So each class breaks it down like the typical D20. Like I said before, it shows the level, base attack, the saving throws, the special abilities they get, and any like specials, or like in this case with this class, the spells per day. So, and of course like you can does give like a spells known per level. So like obviously like as you can see, the higher level you get, the more spells you know per level, like and all the way from like the level 0 all the way down to level in this case level 6. And of course in some cases like the wizard and sorcerer tradition go up to level 9. So your oracle here you can see could be like your stereotypical shaman type of deal. So like it breaks it up just like the other classes as well, and then like it goes in depth on all the special abilities that you get per level, and you can see like how in depth they go with each class and everything. So you can see that, like I said, they go very in depth with all these like classes. So, like these get into like the different like deities and stuff that the oracle can in a sense like worship and everything. So here like you see the beginning for the summoner. So like what comes to mind is like think of like Final Fantasy, the Final Fantasy games, like the summoners where you're summoning like your in this case they call Eidolons. So like think of like things like Ifrits, Shiva, Bahamut, and things of like the elementals and everything. So, and same breakdown for everything that you find in the previous classes. Spells known, and so like this one is totally based towards like as you can see summoning. So it gives like the statistics for the Eidolons that like you can summon with this class and everything. So that's I think like the good showcase of like this book is how in depth it goes with these new classes. So like you can read through like in this case with the summer, you can read through it and know what you're going to be like all the way from level 1 to all the way up to level 20. So the witch here, what comes to mind for me is kind of like the voodoo priest or priestess, someone like as you can see with their abilities, you can learn how to hex, so pretty much how to curse and stuff. So like that's kind of magic they use. So that's why for me like the voodoo priest or priestess comes to mind, someone who basically deals with like the dark magic type of deal, and like you saw with the hex ability being able to curse and stuff. So like it deals like with the kind of like the patron's idea. So and you get the typical like witch spells, and so later on it actually goes into like the actual spells and stuff. So then like you actually get into stuff for the core classes that you see in the core rulebook of the player's handbook, and so it actually goes into depth on like class archetypes that you can do. So like in a sense, ideas for each different one of the core classes from the actual core rulebook. So and then of course it goes even to further depth, as you can see, per class. So like as you can already see, this book is very in depth and very very information heavy. So it can, as the title suggests, it's advanced player's handbook. So you're obviously going to have like a lot more stuff built upon the core rulebook. So this is why it's so in depth and everything. So this is why like this is kind of like can be like daunting and overwhelming. So best bet when using this book is I would say use this stuff for like the core classes to get a familiarity with it, and then start using some of the new classes like the witch and the summoner and stuff like that. So that way, when you use these core classes, you have at least a good grasp of how this book works and stuff. So that way, when you expand on with the new classes, you have much better grasp with it. So, and of course, like they actually have like a list here of like deities that you find in like a typical Pathfinder campaign set, like for the cleric and everything. So and of course it goes into like the spells and like different like domains and stuff for everything. So very in depth, and like of course it goes pretty much almost like alphabetically. So you can see the druid. It goes into like the different types of druids that you can like find in different, in a sense, like the different terrains. So like and you can see like how it goes into fighter, like you different like types of fighters as well, because like the amount of customization with this book is like phenomenal, being so like in depth with the type of like information that it has. And like as you can see, this one is going to be a long video because with all the information that is in this book and everything. So this might well be one of like the best purchases you could make that that offers optional stuff, optional rules and everything. So that's like if you wanted to like really expand on your Pathfinder campaigns with like the core rule books, like just like D&D, the player's handbook, the DM guide, and the monster manual. So like you can see like your pretty much anti-paladin, the black like the what's known as the Blackguard, and I know in D&D 3rd edition. So yeah, you can see like you know, you can get into the Ranger, and so kind of going through this a little quicker and everything to try and save some time. And then like the Rogue goes through like the same kind of concept with the Rogue, and it gives like pictures and stuff like so you can kind of get like a visual for each class and everything. So like different types of rogues, like the typical spy, swashbuckler, a thug type of deal. So like then like you got your sorcerer, and you got different types of like in a sense like subclasses you can do with the sorcerer. Go flip through quickly, and like and then you can see like it ends with the wizard, and like based on the school of magics and everything. So like nice little picture of a wizard in action going against a blue dragon. So it goes, and then you get into the actual like feats, and so it works just like a 3rd edition, like since this is a D20 system. And as you can see, typical little like a blurb on something to kind of explain this. And so this chapter is like pretty much just like the 3rd edition, and just like the core rulebook for Pathfinder. It gives you like the description of like different types of feat, combat, meta magic, teamwork. Gives description of each type of the actual feat. So this way, when you can read and kind of choose and like, okay, well, this is what I need to get this one and everything. So like, is it necessarily worth it? And of course, it does give a nice long list, table for that, as you can see, of all the different feats, and it's alphabetical, the prerequisites, and it gives the benefits. So this table is like a pretty in-depth, as you can see. So there's a lot of new feats and everything that you can get. So as you can see, 4 pages worth of just the list and everything. So this whole chapter then goes into each one, and of course it's alphabetical, so like that way it's easy to find stuff and stuff. So it gives the whole description of each actual feat that you saw in the table and everything. So this one is pretty long because as you can see, 4 pages of just the whole list and everything, and then like at least a dozen or so pages for the actual descriptions of each of them. So then we get into the actual equipment that expands on the core rulebook, and like the usual blurb on like the kind of like a kick off this chapter. And so it starts off with the weapons. It has like all the types of weapons, how much they cost, damage, like the whole like 9 yards, and like the whole statistics that you need for each type of weapon. And so they do give like a nice good pictures of some of the different weapons that you have, and of course it gives descriptions of them too as well. And of course then it gets into the actual armor, and it does the same thing. It gives you like quick pictures of what they stereotypical ones would look like, because you could in a sense like make your own, and it looks like slightly different. Same kind of concept. It has a table where you can actually it gives the stats and how much they cost, and like everything for the armor that you could get. And then it gets into goods and services that you can actually buy, and of course you have the table for the goods and services that anything you could think of that you would need for the actual kind of like the background stuff, other than weapons and armor and spells and like potions and stuff like that. And it gives the description of those as well in this. And of course you have some pictures of those miscellaneous items that you come across and everything that you could use in your campaign set. And of course like the usual tools and skill kits and everything like that, kind of like your thief's disarm and trap kit. And of course you got like your chemical potions and stuff like that you come across. And like those are the descriptions for stuff like that. You got like clothing, animal related gear, and maybe you can like quite often like the entertainment items as well. And then chapter 5, as you can see, gets into spells, the typical little blurb to kick the chapter off. And then what this does, it gives pretty much like a list of the spells per class, like the alchemist, the anti-paladin, and you can see that in the bard. So all the classes that can cast spells, you can see, gives a whole complete list for all levels of spells that each class has access to. So like you can see here the elementalist wizard spell list, which is quite extensive because they are one of the main character spellcasters. Inquisitor, and then the paladin, ranger. You can see the sorcerer, wizard spells, summoner spells, and then of course now it actually gets into like some of like the new spells, like descriptions, like what school it is, the components you need, the save and throw, spell resistance, and then an actual description of how the actual spell works and everything. So it does that pretty much alphabetically, and like for everything, all of the spells that like, especially the new ones that you see here in this book and everything. So it goes in depth on the description for all of those as well. As I flip through like these ones relatively quickly, and so like you can see like a spell cast in effect and everything. So you can see like how in depth this book goes, and like how much you could actually add on to your Pathfinder campaign with just this one book and everything. Spells galore as like continue. As you can see, like each chapter is pretty thick. And of course, got to showcase the good old artwork in here. So, long chapters for this book, and it's definitely like a big book, and is for books that are like optional to buy and everything. This is I would say definitely well worth it. So then we actually get into prestige classes, kind of like those classes that you can multi-class into. So then the usual blurb that they have, and so they actually offer new prestige classes, sort of like the ones they offer. Same kind of concept as the prestige classes in the player's handbook. So you can see like the Battle Herald, and then you have the Holy Vindicator, and then you have like a Horizon Walker. And like they like most they offer artwork, so you can kind of get like the idea of what these are supposed to be. The Master Chemist, kind of like the little feral character type of deal. Master Spy. Nature Worn would be like something like perfect for like a druid. Rage Prophet, sort of like a barbarian cleric type character. Yeah, Stalwart Defender. I'm sure people will probably remember that from I remember that from 3rd edition. And like most prestige classes, it has the same kind of concept for like the base attack and saves and like special abilities that you get just like you would normal classes and everything. So then we get into like magic items, which is like probably like one of like just like the prestige class, one of the shorter chapters of this book and everything. So it gives like the pretty much like you can see the descriptions for the magic items. It gives the ideas for new magic items in the campaign, and of course it gets into like armor, like the special ability specific armors. So it gives like in a sense like pictures of like the specific armors that you can come across, and like it does the same thing for weapons, like specific weapons that you magical weapons that you can come across. And then like here you can see the table for the specific weapons and everything. So then it gives descriptions of each of them, and so that way you have an idea of like what they're all about stuff. And then we actually get into magical rings, and so rods, and of course you have pretty much all the different types of like magic items that you can think of, just like in like D&D and in the core rulebooks for Pathfinder. So you have your pictures of rods, and you also have pictures of your like staffs for your magic items, so you have idea of like what they are. So you got like your wondrous items, kind of like your higher powered type of magic weapons. So like of course it goes minor, medium, as you can see here, and then the major wondrous items. So like as they go up from minor, medium to major, the more powerful they get. And of course they have pictures of that stuff that you come across as well, and descriptions of all of those as well, as we flip through these relatively quickly to kind of finish this off. And of course you have the whole idea of cursed items too. So like if you piss off your DM enough, they might give you one of these cursed items and everything. So, and they also get into minor artifacts as well, and like the idea of like a picture of one of them as well. And of course the description of that right there that goes up on here as well. So that way you have like an idea of like what one of them, the minor artifacts that works. And of course you got like the major artifacts. So Cloud City, Cloud Castle, the Storm King. So the Adventure of the Storm King starter deck, starter set comes to mind, and so you can see the picture of that here. So then it gets pretty much into the last chapter with the new rules, and then you have the excerpt or a little blurb introduction for the chapter. And so like this is where it introduced what you encounter. some of the new rules. So like you can see like dirty tricks for the combat maneuvers, drag, and it has like a whole idea of like hero points. And think of like hero points as doing something like a kind of like spectacular and everything. And so like it gets into how like you actually use that and everything. So like you can see like it gives you like a +8 luck bonus. So like for instance, if I want to attack and I want to make sure that like I hit, I can use a hero point that I got to do like a +8. So like if I roll like a nat 20, that would be like a 28 off the bat before I even add any like my weapon bonuses or anything. So. And of course, it gets into like the clip of like the anti-heroes that the GM can use and everything. So it gets into like concepts that like you can use along with these hero points and everything. So like it also has like the, as you can see, idea for like magic items as well. So like it has like a new concept for that for new roles. You also have like new idea for traits as well that you can use. And of course like you might put restrictions on like trait selections and everything. So because like you can see here like religion, regional, race, you can put like restrictions on something like that. And so like and of course you have the idea of basic traits, and of course it breaks down into like different ones like combat traits, like, and then like faith traits and magic traits that you can see. So like it kind of breaks it off into different types of classes, like the divine spellcasters with faith, arcane spellcasters here's with magic, and your like combat traits for your combat classes like the barbarian and the fighter. So and of course it goes into like different ideas on how to use the traits and stuff for, and also he has ideas for race traits and everything, the idea of the regional traits, religion, and so the options for this are pretty vast and everything. So for a book that is like in a sense like as you can see relatively small, it does pack in a lot of new information and everything. So like if you're looking for something that definitely packs that punch for added a lot of added material to add to like your Pathfinder campaign, this one is definitely worth getting. Now like just like D&D, the only thing you really need is the player's handbook, even though for DMs the DM guide and monster manual are good. This one itself would actually be like a good add-on if you're looking to add a lot more to your campaign for like your player options and everything. So for optional rules and stuff and everything, I'll reiterate, this one is definitely well worth it.